please tell your jury what you're looking at?
This is a picture of my baby before she was born. It's an ultrasound.
When was that ultrasound picture taken of your baby?
At the end of August last year.
How far along, how pregnant were you at the end of August last year?
I was 5 months or so pregnant at that time.
So back in early July last summer, you would have been about 3 months pregnant?
That's right.
And who's the father of that baby?
Elby was her daddy.
Larry Albert Rogers?
Yes.
You don't know.
Yes.
When you were pregnant last summer with your baby, now, how long have you and Albie been together?
We had been living together for about 3 years at that point.
We should publish the jury. Bonnie, I want to talk to you about the day you found out you were pregnant with your baby. When was that?
It was right after the 4th of July last year.
How did you know? How did you come to suspect that you were pregnant?
Well, you know, I've been feeling badly, you know, I was nauseous a lot and feeling really, really tired. And I thought I just had the flu or something, but it, you know, it was going on and on. And then, you know, I didn't get my period, and that's when I thought I might be pregnant.
When you were feeling tired and feeling nauseous, how long did that go on for?
More than a month.
Did you go to the doctor at all?
Oh, no.
What did you think? You thought you had the flu?
Yeah.
Were you working at that time, Bonnie?
Yes.
Where were you working?
I was working up at the chicken packing plant.
Tell your jury what you did at the chicken factory.
I worked on the assembly line. My job was to pluck the feathers off the chickens as they came down the line. During my shift, that was my job, was part of getting the chickens ready.
What was your shift? What shift did you work?
I worked the midnight to 8 a.m. shift.
How many days a week?
5 days a week, definitely, and lots of times 6 days a week if I could get the extra shift.
As of last summer, when you were pregnant with your baby, how long had you been working 5, 6 days a week, midnight to 8 a.m., plucking chickens?
Just about 2 years.
So you're working at the chicken factory 5, 6 days a week, midnight to 8 a.m., feeling tired, feeling nauseous, and you didn't get your period. What did you do to figure out if you were in fact pregnant?
Well, I think it was the day after 4th of July. I finished work, and on the way home, I stopped at the drugstore, and I bought one of those home pregnancy tests. And when I got home, I used the test, and it showed up positive.
And what was that like? You figured out that day that you were actually pregnant?
I had lots of emotions going on all at once. It was just sort of an unbelievable feeling, you know, I had a little life growing inside of me, and that I was going to have a baby. It was just a great feeling.
Had you ever been pregnant before that?
Yes.
How many times before did you get pregnant?
I had been pregnant twice before.
Let's talk about your first pregnancy. When was that?
Oh, I was about 20 years old, and then I wasn't able to have that baby. Something went wrong, and I had a miscarriage. And lost the baby.
When lost the baby. What was that like?
It was just devastating. It's just awful. It's terrible.
You said there was another pregnancy or this one. When was that?
That was 3 years ago.
What's your little boy's name?
Michael Alvin Hitchens.
Who's Michael's dad?
Alvin.
And when you were pregnant with Michael, how did Albie feel about that? When you told Albie you were pregnant with Michael, how did he react?
Well, he kept angry about it. He was feeling really pressured and angry. He thought that we couldn't afford a baby, and it's true. I mean, it's really fun.
Were you working back then?
Not right then.
Was Albie working? So money was tight. He was upset about it. How did you know he was upset? What did he say?
Well, he said that, we couldn't afford the baby, and he asked me to get rid of it. He told me, it's my problem. But, I should have taken better precautions. And I told him I didn't want to get rid of the baby.
He told you that you had to get rid of your baby. And you said no, you weren't going to. What was his response to that?
He just got, he was furious. He slapped me and told me that I was useless and there was no way he was going to be raising a new baby. We didn't have the money. He didn't want a baby. He told me, he said, I always told you I didn't want a baby. This is your fault. You get rid of it.
Bonnie, when he was telling you this was your fault, he didn't want to deal with it, that he didn't want a baby, what did he sound like?
Well, he's young. He was really furious. He was really upset.
And as he's yelling at you that he doesn't want to have a baby, that this is your fault, that you need to get rid of this baby, what does he look like?
When Albie gets mad, his face gets really red. Gets really red in the face. He gets this look in his eye.
Can you tell us about that look in his eye? What does that mean?
It's cold, but it's hot at the same time. He's so mad and focused, looking right at you, like, you don't even exist almost.
And as he's yelling at you that you need to get rid of this baby, and his face is red, and he's got that cold look in his eye, what did he do to you?
He punched me. And,
Punched you where? Was Michael okay?
Yes.
Bonnie, was this the first time that Albie had ever hit you?
No.
In your 3 years that you were without, how often did he hit you?
Well, you know, at the beginning, he didn't really hit me at all. You know, he'd argue, but he didn't hit me. But he, you know, he had a problem with alcohol. When he was drinking, sometimes he would and he hit me.
How often did I do that?
By that time, he was drinking pretty much every day. You hadn't been able to find a job. It was, so you know, stay at home.
Time to start drinking usually.
And by that time, you drink pretty much from the moment you got up until the moment you either went to bed or you passed out.
What would Albie drink?
Mostly beer.
So when he's drinking, from the moment he wakes up to the moment he goes to sleep or passes out, what happens to him? What's his mood like? What's he like when he's drinking?
Well, you could be real short, you know. It really didn't take much to set him off. You get real moody, sometimes real quiet, until you did something.
And what would he do when he did something that made him mad?
Sometimes he would, you know, he'd just yell at me, but other times, you know, he'd smack me. Very passionate.
Where?
Oh, you know, wherever. Slap me in the face. He'd pull my hair sometimes. Push me into the wall. He'd punch me in the stomach, chest, the back. The back.
How often would you beat your mom? How often did this happen?
Sometimes we go a whole week with nothing happening, and other times, you know, a couple of times, 3 times a week. It wasn't a constant pattern.
But sometimes as much as 3 times a week. Were you ever hurt?
I had bruises. But, you know, I never had any broken bones or anything like that. My back sometimes bothered me.
When Albie would get drunk and angry and he would beat on you, did you or anybody else call the police?
Yeah.
How many times did you call the police?
Maybe 3 or 4.
And what happened when you called the police?
Well, they would come, you know, when they were in this so-called domestic. And, you know, they'd talk to Albie, they'd bring him outside, and they'd calm him down, and they'd tell him to go to sleep it off. Tell me to just sort of leave him alone. And they got up.
Did they ever arrest you? Funny, if Albie was beating on you, sometimes 3 days a week, police didn't arrest him. Why didn't you leave him?
you know, I loved him. And I know that deep down he loved me. And I just always thought that it would get better, that he would apologize. And I thought it would get better. I just thought, you know, if he could get a job and get back on his feet, feel better about himself, you know, he wouldn't be drinking so much. Because, you know, when he was sober, things were okay. So I thought that if I just hung in with him, it would get better.
They get better. So what happened with Michael?
And right before him, he was a healthy baby. You know, I had him for almost a month at home, but, you know, Albie just couldn't deal with it. And he kept saying we couldn't afford it, and I needed to be working, and we needed money coming in, and we couldn't afford it, so it was just when we had to do something. I couldn't keep the baby, so there's just, it wasn't going to let the baby stay.
And Albie told you you wouldn't let your baby, Michael, stay. What did you do?
I called Bonnie, my sister, and I told her, you know, what was going on, and how tight money was, and that it was just, you know, things were really tense and hard, and I you know, asked her for help, for advice. And she agreed to take me with me. It was going to be temporary. I thought once we got on our feet again, I would feel better about having a big boy at home. So it was
Where is Michael? Bonnie, I want to take you back to last July, when you found out you were pregnant with this baby. You said you were really happy, excited, but you also had some concerns. What were you worried about?
Well, I was worried about how Albie was going to react. You know, he'd been so upset when I was pregnant with Michael. And he still wasn't working. He was still drinking a lot. And, you know, I thought I knew he was going to react.
Did you tell Albie eventually?
Yes.
When did you tell him?
When I decided to tell him I got home from work, and he was still in bed, so I didn't go to him. And then later in the day, you know, when we woke up, fixed him something to do. And I told him.
What'd you say?
I said, Albie, I'm pregnant again.
And when you told Albie you were pregnant again, what was his reaction?
He didn't say anything for a few minutes. He just sat there, you know, and he seemed kind of surprised, and then he got really still, really quiet.
When you say you just sat there and got still, tell us what you looked like.
He just sort of slowly picked his head up and moved and looked at me. He just, he had that look in his eye. He was, you know, staring me down. He wasn't saying anything. He was just looking at me. He was mad. He was really said, "You're nothing but a stupid bitch." He said it was all my fault. And how come I didn't know better?
When he stares at you, that look in his eye, and he says, "You stupid bitch, it's all your fault." What was that like for you?
I was ashamed. And I was scared.
What were you scared of?
I was scared that he was going to try to make me have an abortion, or he was going to hit me.
Did he hit you on it? Where did he hit you?
Slapped me in the face. He pushed me back down into the chair. Hit me in the back of the head as he was walking by in the kitchen. And then later, he punched me again. Punched me in the head,
Pointed your belt, punched you in the belly. How many times did Albie hit you that day? She told him, right, your baby.
I really don't know. It happened more than once. 5, 8, 9, 7.
Fine. Now I want to take you to later that evening, just before Albie's sister, Gina, comes home. Where were you and Albie just before Regina came home?
We were in the living room.
What were you doing?
I was sitting on the couch. I was sitting in the rocking chair. And the TV was on.
What was Albie doing as he's sitting there in the rocking chair?
Well, he was drinking his beer. He wasn't speaking to me anymore at that point. He was just sort of sitting there, just rocking back and forth, back and forth. I wasn't saying anything. Wouldn't even look at me at that point.
And what happens when Regina comes home? He's sitting there rocking his rocking chair. He's not looking at you. He's not speaking to you. Regina comes home. What happens then?
She came in the living room. He looked up at me and he said, "You're just not going to believe this." And he looked over at me and said, "Bonnie, you tell her what you've done. You tell her what you've done."
When he said, "You tell her what you've done," what did he sound like?
He's really, he's just so mad at me.
What does his voice sound like?
He's yelling.
And when he yells at you, "Bonnie, tell her what you've done. Tell her what you've gone and done." Did you tell Regina about your baby? Why not?
didn't know what to do. I didn't know what I was gonna do. I was so, you know, what was I gonna say?
So he tells you, tell her what you've gone and done, and you don't say anything. What does Albie say next, Father?
Says, you know what, you just go get me a beer. Get me a beer and you come back in here and you are going to tell Bonnie, you are going to tell Gina what you've done. You're going to tell her.
Did you go get him a beer?
Yeah.
Where do you go to get a beer?
Into the kitchen.
So now you're in the kitchen. You're standing in the kitchen. He's ordered you to go get him a beer. What do you see, Don? What do you see in that kitchen?
So Gina's purse.
When you saw her purse, what were you thinking?
I don't know, I just saw her purse. It was open. And I knew she had it already.
You took the gun. Why do you pick up the gun?
I don't know, you know, I was thinking if I had the gun, you know, he wouldn't come near me, he would hit me again. He just, you know, he'd see the gun and he wouldn't come near me.
So you get the gun, and you now go back into the living room.
Yeah.
What do you do after you get that gun from him?
And I hit the gun in his beer.
Wait a second. You pick up the gun, and now you go get him a beer?
Yeah.
Why?
He told me to get him a beer, I was getting him a beer. You know, I just, get him a beer.
You go to the refrigerator. Tell us what you see inside that refrigerator.
Well, when I opened the refrigerator door, you know, I looked inside and now, you know, there are only a few beers left.
How many beers had been there earlier that day?
Probably a case.
Now you see just a few left.
I'm pretty sure we got all of that.
You get the beer. Where do you go?
Back into the living room.
When you go back into the living room, Bonnie, what does Albie do?
Well, he's still sitting in the chair, rocking.
Does he say something?
Just give me the beer.
Give it to him. After you give him that beer, what does he say next?
Now you tell Gina what you've done. You tell her what you've done.
When he tells you, tell her what you've done, what does he look like at that moment?
Cool, and he's angry, really angry. He's rocking back and forth. He's got all this tension in his body. He's rocking. And he just leans forward and says, "You tell her what you've done."
When he yells at you, tell her what you've gone and done. Do you tell her this time, Bonnie?
No.
And so he yells, tell her what you've gone and done, and you don't tell her again. What does he do?
That's when he just came out of the chair at me, you know, he just came out of the chair, he steps up and coming at me.
And he comes at you, and what happens next? What happens next?
I shot him.
this was not the first time Albie had gotten rough, right? And you've already told us this wasn't the first time Albie had gotten angry at you, right?
Okay.
And you told us this wasn't the first time Albie had beat on you, right?
Yeah.
All those other times Albie had gotten drunk, angry, and beat on you. Had you ever picked up a weapon, a gun, a knife, anything? All those other times that Albie had gotten drunk and angry and beat on you, had you ever hit him?
No.
All those other times that Albie had gotten drunk and angry and beat on you, had you ever done anything to physically fight back? I'm not fun.
It wouldn't have done any good. It would end faster if I didn't fight. And I know that deep down, that you loved him. I loved him. This fight.
Why this time? Why this time, Bonnie, did you go get that gun and shoot out?
I wasn't going to let him punch me in the stomach again. I wasn't going to let him take the bait.
Bonnie, can you tell your jury what you're looking at now?
How baby did.
Is that the same baby girl that you were pregnant with that day when Albie punched you in the belly when he came at you? You shot him. How old is she in that picture?
Oh, this was taken when she was 2 months old.
Your Honor, I move to introduce this into evidence. I ask the court's permission to publish as an enlargement. Bonnie, just one last question. Can you tell these folks your baby girl's name?
I named her Grace.